Good morning, everybody. How are you today? I hope you're doing wonderful. I'm looking forward to our Be Encouraged. I always look forward to Tuesdays, especially because we've got the main man, my buddy, all the way from Nebraska. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, the owner of 93.7, The Ticket in Lincoln, Nebraska. And he's also one of their superstar personalities as well. And he's my friend, Tarek Pearson. That's the most important part of the whole thing.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
How are you doing this morning, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. Got a good night's sleep. Uh, that which is important. Haven't always done those the last week or so. But I got a good night's sleep. It's a big weekend here in Lincoln. The university's it's homecoming and it's Hall of Fame week. So every Nebraska legend will be in town, and it'll be a busy week. Basketball practice started yesterday for the Huskers. Now, if we can just get the football team straight, uh, be all good. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Okay, don't
There
know
you go.
why.
There you go.
Question is then, is the basketball team going to be straight?
Yes, yes. A fun thing has happened uh, with name, image, and likeness is that it has opened the door between student athletes and folks like me, the media, um, where you get to build relationships. And I can tell most teams from an athletic standpoint, most teams have the talent. Um, but then the thing happens is, can you get the team to get on the same page as young men or young women, or if you can get them on the same page from a character standpoint, and that appears to have been done. Um, they've got the most talented team they've ever had here, and that's saying a lot. They've got the most talent, and I think they've spent the most time working on what's going to be required. So, Fred Hoiberg's here. He's played in the league. He's coached in the league. He's been an executive in the league. I think this is the time where Nebraska turns the corner of basketball. Baseball, of course, they're the defending Big Ten champion. So being around that, it's just fun being around the young people and meeting them and getting to know them a little bit better. It's a good group, a talented group, and then it's also a good group. So
Right.
yeah,
Well, I've noticed that you had a real focus on the basketball with the players, and I guess that's only because it's hard to football players are in season, and it's hard to get them to have time to come to the station and hang out and talk about what they're planning to do and what they're doing and what they're not doing and whatever else is part of the whole process. I noticed though that you have a lot of the basketball team. In fact, it looks like you've almost had the whole team in at
pretty
some
much,
point or another.
pretty much. It's one. I mean, you've got 15 basketball players, so getting to them is a lot easier. Football in season, I'm sure they'll be around a little bit more. Baseball players, you can get working on getting the women's teams going. Got a couple
Yes.
of of, of of the young ladies who've become a part of what we do. I just think I look at it this way. I can tell somebody about another person. It's much easier for that person to tell our listeners who they are, and so getting that sort of insight, like we don't get into, hey, what are you guys running here and what are you guys doing?
No, no.
It's usually the personality profiles, who they are, stories about their parents, stories about their high school coaches, stories about their other teammates, and you get, when you get kids that really appreciate the people who help them get there,
Yeah.
it makes it much easier to root for them. Like it's pretty cool to go, okay, like that's a good-hearted kid right there. And uh, another thing that's happened because of the pandemic, uh, there's some. I think there are 3 or 4 kids who already have their degree, and they're getting
Sure.
their masters and they're gonna play. So when you have kids that enjoy that kind of focus, who are willing to
Yeah.
work hard off the floor, they tend to work hard on the floor as well. So it's pretty. Like I said, the best part is that we're building the next broadcasters. You're building the next, sports talk guys because now they have the opportunity to get their conversations out there, and the narrative is important.
Well, I've noticed something else, and I want you to speak to this if you can. Um, Switching gears a little bit and going to the NFL.
Okay.
I having produced high school football and having produced, and it's football's football. It's just a lower level or whatever. It's not as fast, so it's easier for us to produce.
Yeah.
but but producing sports, having done that for 25 plus years, more than that, um, I've noticed one of my favorite things is when they have, let's introduce you to the lineup, and they have, you know, Mark Jesus from Ohio State or the Ohio State University. Ba 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 ba. Tell me about why I'm hearing more and more of these players saying what high school they're from or what town they're from instead of speaking to the university that they attended. Is that because they haven't had gotten a degree yet? Or what is the reason for that? Can you speak to
It's
that?
rarely about the degree. It's usually about the essence of who they are. Like, what place do you feel like is most
Represents you.
responsible? Yeah, like, there are people that become, like, for me, no matter where I went to school, where I'm from is the greater statement of who I am. It travels with me at a higher degree. Now, from a networking standpoint, professional networking, you might go to your college, but from a personal networking standpoint, you get to know people better where you're from than where you're at or where you go. Even if it's, your part, your high school has, 3,000 students, you go to college and it has 30,000, your
Right.
ability to get to know the 3,000 may override. And it doesn't always happen because there are people that, you go to the University of Miami, that network is strong and that's purposeful. They do that on purpose. Same with Notre Dame. There's certain schools where that's the case. But there are also players who specifically want to acknowledge the people who made them who they are at a deeper level. um, I tell people all the time, and there are people who know that I'm from Green Valley, and people go, "Well, where's that?" Well, yeah, I'm from Green Valley. It's one thing to say I'm from D.C. It's another to say I'm from Arlington, Virginia. The greater truth is I'm from Green Valley, in a place where culturally we were identified. Like, there are people that if you came from Green Valley, there's certain things that you take with you as you go out into the world because you had to learn how to become a complete person, from home to school to wherever you were going to
Right.
school. So I'm from Green Valley. So if I'd be one of those dudes, I said, well, where are you from? I'm from Green Valley. That allows me to say that I'm from Arlington, Virginia. I'm a part of a culture of people of color um, who understood culturally that they needed to be strong, and then who went out into the world and assimilated and acclimated themselves to
Mm.
whatever was going on. If you're from Green Valley, you survive. So that's what people are saying in this is that, listen, this is where these are the people who helped make me who I am, and I'm a member of the Black Knights. That's uniform and across the board. That means that I understand the brotherhood of sport.
Okay. Yeah, and I can see that too because I think so there's going to be athletes who were, you know, athletic all through their youth and through high school, but they didn't become men. You did when you were in Green Valley. You know, you are already on the crux of becoming a man. You know what it meant to be a man because of that culture and where you lived.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they don't know what it means to be a man until they meet that coach at college
Mm-hmm.
who tells them and shows them by example what it
Mm-hmm.
means to be a man. And so I understand now better. I thought at one point years ago, if someone did that, I thought it was because they had a beef against their college and they weren't
They
going to
they
say it.
may they
Yeah,
may, and that's certainly the case. There are certain people who didn't like what happened. There are people who left the university early to go pro because it wasn't serving a purpose anymore. It just
right.
depends on the person. I mean, some people want to identify the basic stuff. Like I could
Yeah,
say I'm a WNL general. If you're from if you went to graduated from Jeb Stewart, that's not the name of the school now.
right.
Washington Lee is now Washington Liberty. I can say WNL and people will know what that means. It means that I'm a kid who was educated in the middle of Arlington versus Wakefield, which is South Arlington, versus Yorktown, which is North Arlington, versus O'Connell, which is private Catholic. So in
Yeah,
identifying, hey, I'm a middle of the county guy who grew up in the South County. I'm telling people a lot. I'm giving them a lot of information.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it. No, thank you for that because I've been thinking. I'm just going because just the other night, I mean, there's a ton of guys that were using their high school in their town where they were from. They didn't even say their high school. I know it wasn't a high school because they would say high school. It would just say, like you said, Green Valley.
I'm
And
I'm okay. I'm okay with, like, if I said where I went to college or where I went to high school. I don't have that kind of beef with with people. I would probably say I'm from Green Valley or Arlington, Virginia, or Washington or WNL. I would probably say WNL to be in the right space because I don't particularly have beef with any of them, but I certainly understand some players who do.
sure, I do too. I do now, and I mean, I did then. At the time, they they didn't make a big deal out of it, but it was one particular player, and I think it's because he didn't graduate, they didn't give him his degree, and it was just they were using him as a player and not necessarily helping him with his education. There's a whole story about it, and I
Well,
remember,
it goes, if you go back, like we're old enough to go back in the day where they would do the sideline introductions, right? Where guys would just stand there and they'd flash the camera to them and
they run the camera down the line. Yeah,
right, they go down the line and this is who it was. And the first changes in it relate to a couple of different people. One, Otis Sistrunk, who played in the NFL, played for the Raiders and a couple other teams. Otis Sistrunk said he was from another universe, and it was spectacular.
yeah,
And then to expound on it, uh, you go to the NBA and Daryl Dawkins, who said he was from Lovetron, right? And you go, okay, that was a part of it. So people understood that from a branding standpoint and from a notoriety standpoint, going outside of the norm has value.
yes,
Um, that's been passed along for a long time. But Otis Sistrunk was fantastic. So was Daryl Dawkins. Daryl Dawkins would name
of
his
course,
dunks and that sort of thing. But he said,
yeah.
"Yeah, I'm from the university. I'm from the universe of Lovetron." And you go, "Okay, you win. There's nothing else I can. There's nothing else I can say."
And
Yeah,
everybody in town, everybody, especially in the culture, would howl when they heard
yeah,
him say that.
yeah,
They'd be
yeah,
like, ah, they'd be
yep,
screaming,
yep.
just like when you go to a movie theater downtown.
Yeah, you
When
know
people
what it is.
talk into that screen.
Hey man, you know what it was.
Yeah,
Culturally, and then across the board, it was a great identifier that they were just different kind of personalities. So
that's right. That's right. And then, the guy who didn't say it but dressed like was Dennis Rodman. That's what I was thinking of immediately when you said a different universe. I said, well, there's one right there. He's from a whole nother universe.
well, I mean, Bill Lee, who pitched for the Red Sox, was another one. They called him Spaceman. He was not from this planet. There were several guys, Andy Messersmith, guys who they just thought about things differently. They lived in a different. Bill Walton is probably a great example, but he also identifies UCLA because of John Wooden, but
Sure.
he was a different kind of thinker. So these introductions now allow for players to show who they are and show some personality.
I love
That
it.
that's what it's about.
Yeah. And I just asked because it's different and I'm wondering, not that I mean, I think it's fine. You should be able to say, anything you want to say within constraints, of course.
Right.
But Daryl Dawkins, Lovetron. I mean,
Yeah.
what are you gonna say?
Yeah.
That's one of the that's got to be iconic, and I didn't even know that because I never was an NBA follower back in the day. I watch it now more than I did then. So I mean, I of course knew who Daryl Dawkins was, and I knew who the top players were, but I didn't follow that part of the NBA. So
Well, those are also the first set of folks who went directly from like Moses Malone, Daryl Dawkins, Kobe. Those are guys that didn't go to college.
right, came
So
straight to high school.
they started identifying. I mean, Moses Malone from Petersburg High School in Virginia. That was kind of how it was identified. Daryl Dawkins, same thing. A lot of it was the transition. Branding has become more of a thing.
Hmm.
And those may be the best opportunities for you to get in front of a mass of people with a message. So if you're in the branding business where your name is your brand, you have to take advantage of those opportunities.
Sure you do. Sure you do. Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit again, and let's talk about your boys there. In as far as the games are concerned with Nebraska, I want to tell you I've been somewhat impressed with their play. I know they haven't come out on the winning side as much as they would like to, but Scott Foster seems like he's got a not Scott Foster, Scott Frost.
Yeah.
Seems like that he's got a real. I mean, I liked him at UCF, and of course, I loved him when he played at Nebraska. I mean,
Mhm.
I remember the thing that I thought was amazing was they said that he could bench press more than anybody else on the team, and I'm like, the quarterback. How does the quarterback outbench the D line guys? Those guys.
Big
But I
man.
remember
He's a
being
big
so
man.
impressed by that. And when he
Yeah.
would run the ball, he was just like a big linebacker running the ball and knocking people down. And yeah, he was an amazing player to watch. I used to love to watch Scott Frost play basketball. I'm sure he does play basketball, but played for Nebraska football. And I was a big Colorado Buffaloes fan at the time for no other reason except I like Ralphie. Um, but of course, so I watched Big 12, and I was kind of a Big 12 fan at the time, and it was so much fun to watch him play. Tell me about him. What do you know about him? And have you had a chance to have Scott Frost on your show on your station yet?
Yeah, the last time I mean, in fact, you're in the same space with him every Monday. There's a presser uh, that they have, and you're there, especially now post pandemic. So I talk to these coaches once or twice a week, at least just on a basic level of engagement.
Yeah.
He's been on the show this summer back at the Big Ten conference media event, and he came and sat down with us. And Scott, I'm rooting for Scott. Scott's got his hands full. Being iconic as a player,
Mm-hmm.
national champion, and a guy who then went to the NFL. I mean, Scott's got a lot to deal with. He's got a lot of oars in the water. Um, it's tough though because Nebraska is such a single focused state athletically, and football is the thing that is the straw that stirs the drink, as Reggie Jackson would say.
Yeah.
Football is the straw that stirs the drink. Scott's personality, people love Scott. People are rooting for Scott. But here's the line in the sand here. Winning here makes everybody comfortable. Losing puts everybody at issue, especially from a financial standpoint, economic standpoint. When Nebraska's winning, the state does well. When Nebraska is not winning, um, you know, folks get a little uneasy. You're talking about restaurants that rely on the success of the football program, the other programs that rely on the success of the football program, and winning matters here.
Mm.
So as much as they love Scott as a person, at some point the lines meet, and he's going to have to win. It's one thing to not only just look good, they have to win in order for this thing to move, and that's not always an easy hill to climb. Um, Pretty much half the population believes that he'll be just fine. The other half, they have questions, and that's the constant battle each day: is which voice is louder? Are they on the way, or are they too far away? And
What do you think?
those sides will not meet until there's winning. Like listen, we don't care about the rest of it, all the fundraising and all that stuff. You got to win on Saturday, and the Big Ten is tough. I mean, and the thing about the Big Ten is that it never really gets easy. It's never really an easy journey. So they'll go from playing Oklahoma in an independent game, number 5, number 3 in the country, to playing a top 25 Michigan State team, uh, to Northwestern, who won the division a year ago, and then Michigan, Ohio State, etc. So it doesn't get any easier. You have to
Right.
find answers, and I'm rooting for him. I'm just not sure that he's going to have at some point the players have to step up for him, and I'm just not sure that's going to happen in a quick enough way for him to be in a good light again.
Well, I know this. He's already proven himself as a coach with UCF. Whether or not, and I think that that's what somebody needs to say to these players is, you know what, guys, your coach is good. He's shown that he's a good coach. He's won, whatever they say, they won a national championship, whatever. I understand, but they've gone undefeated. He's gone undefeated. So you all need to step up, and start showing everybody.
Lee, here's the thing. As the head coach, especially of a blue blood program in the country, you're responsible. Now, UCF is in no way, shape, or form Nebraska.
No.
The schedule, the responsibilities, the accountability, none of that's the same. The players are playing their tails off for Scott Frost. There are some other issues, some things that just don't click. And each game has been kind of a display of, oh my goodness gracious, they're finding new ways to lose games, and not in basic ways. I mean, you had a punter who kicked the ball in the wrong direction, and yeah, I mean, you've had blocked field goals and extra points, you've had fumbles for touchdowns. It's things that they'll start the game with 2 penalties, and then you go, well, geez, what's going on. A lot of that is coaching and training. A lot of that is personality profiles and making sure you have the right people in place. Look, Scott Frost can win here. I said this on air yesterday. I'd be no more surprised at them winning the rest of the games as them losing the rest of their games. It can go either way, either extreme of the spectrum. We don't know, and that's part of the angst that is being a Nebraska fan currently. Is they can play well enough to have the number 3 team in the country scared out of their brains, but also a team that would allow Fordham to come in and get a lead against them. Like, it's the full extremes. What everybody wants is consistency. Again, he's an icon here, and the people love him. That's without question. The question is, can he turn this program into a winner again at the level that's required?
Right. Okay. Well, what do you think, Kenny?
He can. As I said, they've got 7 games left. If they won all 7 games, I'd not be surprised. If they lose all 7 games, I'd also not be surprised.
I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you stay on that fence then, okay, Coach?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's where this state is when it watches, and it's kind of like watching the Washington football team.
Oh,
there are things. Well, no, but there are things that you see where you go, okay, this could do really well. I mean, this team played, the team, the Tampa Bucks, who went on to win the Super Bowl. They played them better than anybody else, and then they'll show that they can play really well at a very high level. Defensively, they should be one of the best in the league. But they also shown that they can do some things that are kind of mind blowing. So Yeah, my Saturdays and Sundays are fun. It's like Forrest Gump said. These football teams are kind of like a box of chocolates. I'm never quite sure what I'm going to
Right.
get.
Well, it's funny because I was all grumpy about Taylor in the first part of the game, and then all of a sudden he popped off 2 drives, and I was like, "Wow!" And then right back down in the. It's
Yeah,
as you have said to me on many occasions. It's about, and I've heard it from the leaders of sports. It's about consistency. You know, either be consistently good or be consistently bad. Your fans need to know consistently what's going to happen, and if they don't, that freaks them out, and they don't know where to go because there's teams that never win, but their fans come to every game. They know that the team's not going to win, but they want to root them on, and hopefully they will. That's one of those we can hope for that.
well, that's
And we
currently
know those kind of
Washington as
players,
well.
like you just said, Fordham.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Like you can play well, and then you can absolutely just not play well. And yeah, remember, I mean that was Taylor Heineke's third
oh,
start.
absolutely. No, I know. Yeah,
So he's got to learn new group, new defensive backfield. So those guys are still trying to figure out who they are. The guy they were projecting to be the number 2 receiver hasn't played. It's all sorts of little things with that. And then, quite frankly, I wouldn't be surprised if Washington won all of their games or lost them all. I would not be surprised by either. That's just the
right.
personality of the team. Sucks to be a part of the fan base when you're not sure what you're getting, but it's also we learn to laugh about it in Washington. That oh well, that's who we are.
That's true. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Well, I'm still gonna always be a fan. It doesn't matter. I'm always gonna love the Washington football team, and I'm always gonna hate the Dallas Cowboys, and
Yep,
and that's
yep.
how it will continue to be for me and many others in this area. I love some of the players in the Cowboys, but I just can't begin to tell you my distaste for the team as a
I
team.
have they are the evil empire, and they will only be identified as such like that.
Exactly. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
you
know,
know, there's some
that's
people
what
that
it
take it a little bit too far and start and really hate on people, and you can't hate on people, man.
no,
People are people.
the people are people. You root against the franchise doing well
Yeah.
on like that's
That-
literally it. Is that I just don't want them to do well on Sunday. They can have great lives, but I just want them. I want them to be miserable on Sundays.
Yeah, no, yeah. Or I want the players to do well because fantasy and all that kind of stuff. Although I wouldn't have a cowboy on my team if
Never,
I was a
never,
fantasy player.
never draft a cowboy. Never,
That's absolutely right.
ever.
And of course, in my group, and we're not doing it this year for some reason. I don't know what. We just kind of all went. Eh. But I got a buddy who's a cowboy killing. He just loves the Cowboys more than anything in life itself, and he's always posting, and it's always like, "Shut up," you know.
Yeah, that's part of being a Cowboy fan. They know that they're going to hear "shut up" several times a week.
Actually, I have two very good friends that are Cowboys fans,
Uh,
and I even buy cowboy crap for one of my buddies because he's not in a place where he can get stuff like that all the time, and
so
so I look out for him and say, okay, here's a cowboy necklace I saw for $5 or whatever here, and he loves it. He's like, yeah, and I'm like, whatever.
I try not to put my hands to ever have my fingers touch Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, no, I wear gloves for sure when I get them.
Right?
Yeah. Anyway, well, thank you, Derek, as always, man. It's been a pleasure having you on today. We're going to be kicking off doing some high school stuff here with More Joy.
Good.
So, be getting you to chime in maybe a little bit on some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And do you keep track of the Northern Region
I do.
stuff?
I do. Well, I've still got people there. I've still got
You
coaching
do,
buddies
right.
there. I've still got family members that I know are playing. So with
Well, I
seeing
should be asking Barry this or Rich, but how are the Divas doing?
They just had a big pull with that. They're in training now, and as a matter of fact, they're trying to rebuild the roster. So they've got a busy couple of months ahead of them.
That's cool. And I have to say, when I see that sideline picture of the coaches standing next to each other on the Redskins, and I see that young lady who's the running backs coach, it just makes my heart swell. I'm just like, yeah, she's awesome, you know.
Jennifer, she really is.
Yeah.
Jennifer King's one of the best people. Everything that's happening to her, she's earned and deserved.
And that brings me to your new program you're going to have on 93.7 The Ticket with your wife and that other young lady talking a little bit about women's sports. Is that just a one-time thing, Derek?
That event is a one-time thing, or at least just a jump-off event. The young lady has a show Monday nights from 6 to 8. But yeah, working on adding content to the station. I'm
Good.
sure at some point my wife will have her own show just to talk about the business of sports.
The business of sports, right?
To know what that is. But yeah, we want women coaches, women athletes, women educators to have voice as well. So we've opened that door, and in the near future, we'll have more of those shows.
That's outstanding. That's what I want for More Joy too, is to really, if we start doing games, I think I really want to aim at doing women's sports games, and trying to focus on that because no one else is doing that. Yeah. So they have smatterings, although I've seen a lot more coverage lately, and that's awesome. But there's not anybody dedicated to that, and that's what I'd love to have. An entity anyway that's under our media branch that's just women's sports. So
we can all help that, and that's kind of the mission. So
amen, brother. Thank you so much for your time. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
God bless you, man. See ya.
Feels right. It feels right. Yeah. I'm only saying that it feels right.